In this video, I want to show you a nice technique to create more Lush sounding ambiences, pads, and atmospheres, but also stuff like plucks and other more musical elements. So most of the stuff I make is more on the aggressive side, and in this one, we want to keep it a bit more on the softer side. We are going to start with Vital and create our bass sound there, and then we're going to move on to a sampler. For our bass sound, we want a very simple sound with a bit of movement. So I'm going to change this to a sine wave, and we can also just draw in a MIDI note here. And I just already want to go over to the effects, and we just want to introduce some movement here. So the first thing we can use is a distortion and add a bit more of movement by modulating the drive. Don't want to go too aggressive with this and make it a rather slow movement. Should make this a bit longer. Something that also can be useful is a delay. Let's use this one in stereo mode. What gives it a bit of a nice effect is to use this at a rather fast tempo and just delay one side a bit more than the other one, and then use the mix at a really high setting, also the feedback. So this gives us a bit of more stereo width and subtle movement. Then of course for movement you can also use something like a chorus or a flanger or a phaser. What I kind of like is the chorus because it adds a subtle wobble to this. And you can play around with the tempo here and of course all the other settings. I'm just going to leave it like that. If you want, you can use a compressor to kind of tame the dynamics that we have introduced now with all this movement. And in this case, I don't really want this OTT effect with the multiband compression, so I'm just going to use a single band just to keep stuff in check a bit for now. And then one of the main things, of course, is going to be reverb for this. So we want to really use this at a high mix setting, quite a bit of decay time and size. We can also increase the overall attack for this patch so we don't get this click at the beginning. And we can also use an EQ already if we want to maybe at least cut some of the lows that we don't really need in this kind of sound. And you could also go in already and try to tame the resonances a bit. But this is quite enough for this demonstration, so we can go ahead and freeze this track and then just copy it to an audio track. So now we have this, the reverb tail as well. And now we can just use a sampler. And of course you can just do the same stuff in any DAW with any sampler. And just drag this file in here and just increase the volume a bit. So now we can play it at the original pitch. But the reason why I'm using a sampler for this is because it gets interesting once we start to play the sample at a different pitch. So because this is a sampler, when we play the sample at a higher or lower pitch, the sample is being played faster or slower. And so at this point, all the movement that we have introduced in this basic patch now in Vital is also played faster or slower. So we kind of get different variations depending on the pitch that we've played this in. And so once we start playing chords in this, then the different notes of the chord are going to be played at a different speed, which just overall gives us different possibilities than if we would have done everything within our synthesizer. And I'm going to use an EQ here, but mainly for the analysis function here. And we can also use already a compressor and a limiter at the end, even though I'm not really going to engage the compressor yet with the threshold, but we're probably going to use it later. We're going to see. But now the main thing again to change the sound further is going to be reverb. So we can, for example, use this hybrid reverb enabled in here, which is a combination of a convolution reverb and an algorithmic reverb. And just use one of these presets here. I really like the halls typically. And let's just use this one. And again, use it at a rather high mix setting. Also increase size and decay a bit for this one. And you can also use this bass mono function if you want to. So now as you can see, if we play this at a higher pitch, then the sample is gonna play a lot faster. Now that we are in the sampler, you can also use this reverse function here. And the different notes that you're playing are going to reach different parts of the sample at different times. You can also play this at a really low pitch to get a bit more tension and more menacing background drones. And if you play it at a higher pitch, then you're gonna get this more pad-like, lush sounding atmospheres. And of course you can have also all of this loop and just find good loop points. And you can also make use of this envelope here. So generally I would probably increase the attack quite a bit so that I have a smoother fade in when playing notes. But you can also change it to have a more plucky sounding stuff. So for this you can play around just with the decay and the attack of the envelope here and see if you find a good setting for what you want. At least with Ableton Sampler, you can also make more use of the different movements that we have in here by, for example, mapping the key to the sample offset. So now depending on the note you're playing, it's going to start at a different point in the sample. Which again, if you're playing multiple notes, or even if you just play a sequence of different notes, you're gonna get more variation between the notes more than you would if you were just doing this within a synthesizer. So and also the more movement you put in the original sample, the more variation you're gonna get here. However, at this point you could also do the entire process again and just record a note here with the sampler and then put it back into the sampler. And you could also just record a sequence here and put it back into the sampler so you get a new set of movements and variations depending on what kind of stuff you have done in here and depending on the notes you have played. So I would just use this for ambiences and atmospheres and maybe some ping-like sounds. But of course you can also use this in a more musical way and just drawing a sequence in here. Start with the original pitch maybe. Change the envelope here again. Maybe add an octave to this. And maybe go even lower and add some really low, more pulsing sound here. Maybe something in the high register as well. And then of course you could also just duplicate this and get rid of this reverb here maybe, and then just have the bass notes play there. Just put this one octave lower. Increase the attack here so that we don't hear the click. And you could also make use of the glide function here and just have the notes glide into each other. Just increase the time here probably quite a bit. I'll probably use the shaper on this one. And then of course you could also use more modulation on this entire layer now. For example, use an LFO, probably on the cutoff of this low pass filter here. Use it after the reverb if you want to get the most effect. Or you could also use this on a bass sound, of course, instead, and then just have this play here. If you want to get this kind of wobbly bass. But yeah, this is not something that I typically do, but if you're into this kind of stuff, then I think you could easily create pretty much an entire track just from this one source sound if you use it within the sampler in this way, and then just copy a few instances and do a few changes, and you can easily create bass sounds and melodies just from this one sample. I hope this helps, and maybe you can get some interesting sounds by playing around with this technique.